Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, I have been working on my second Delve build, and there will be a video coming out the next day for a build guide for my Molten Strike Jug, or my Hank the Tank 2.0 build. But anyway, for now, I put up a video where this is tanked the form. Basically, really cheap to get this running. And I played with the tree and got it working. It's at about 1 million DPS right now, and that's 1 million dot. It'll go up further as I work on it a bit more, and get a little more currency to sort of push more into the build. But right now, no cluster jewels whatsoever. Does work on a few uniques, so if you were playing this build starter, you would play this a little bit differently, but not, you know, significantly differently. And mainly, you'd be able to get the item eventually, because it's quite cheap this league. But anyway, let's talk through the build and basically get into it. So, we're running Vortex at this stage, as you can see here. This is just standard sort of Vortex Witch Occultist. However, doing it a little differently because this is a Delve build and we have to get, you know, large amounts of armor rolling, which is base before Molten Molten Shell. We've got 32,000 armor. Now, noting that this all synergizes with so ES and ES regen all synergizes with some of the new nodes, and in particular the amount of armor that you stack. So the tankier that you make this character, the more its ES regen rate goes up, and also it's doing like pretty good scaling damage. And the way that we sort of increase our damage is a little differently, and we'll talk about that very shortly. But defense is the biggie here. So energy shield recharge per second, 4.8 thousand, 45% occurrence modifier. I want to try and get this close to like 70%, so this can just keep going up and up and up. 32,000 armor unbuffed, no molten shell on that, so 90% damage reduction, physical damage reduction that is. Max capped resistances with some overcapping here. This is chaos immune as well, and it's just about 3% on either side. Max block. And the reason why we need max block, I'll talk about very shortly. Now, the other side of this, chill avoidance and freeze avoidance is over 100%, so can't be chilled, can't be frozen, with about a 25% range where I don't take any other formats of damage either, or formats of ailments either. Crit damage reduction is at negative 30%, but I'm hoping to get this to negative 60% by the time I'm done with the build. Stun, whatever, recovery modifier, doesn't really matter. Movement speed's not stellar, but we sort of rely on flasking for a bit of that. And this is the old, basically, flask when you... so for flasks on this build to generate your buffs constantly and keep you going, because you're always going to get hit. You're going to have gain 5 charges when you're hit by an enemy, and then whatever the status ailment or whatever is, and then use when you reach full charges. So you basically have auto-popping flasks. Just got one more to get to that point, and then I'm shock immune. I'm actually shock immune. I can't be burnt. The only thing that can get to me right now is corrupted blood, and that's pretty much it. Outside of that, it's all hunky-dory. So gearing-wise, really, really simple gear on this build. So, Crown of the Inward Eye, I was lucky enough to get this to roll to a max roll, so 21%. That's all there is for this. I don't even have the enchant for the helmet yet, so that's how tanky this build is right now. Like what, this is like probably a little bit more than a 5C item now. It's about 5 to 20C item, depending on how you can get the roll. Amulet, literally you're going to go for damage over time, all attributes, any resistances, and energy shield. That's pretty much all you need for the amulet. I would like to get an amulet with a +1 to intelligence gems, all intelligence gems, but that's going to be expensive. And then the anoint is charisma, and this is pretty much the most expensive part of the amulet. You don't need charisma straight away. You can run this without charisma, but, you know, entirely up to you. Shield, this is the most important one, is the Aegis Aurora. The reason why we use Aegis Aurora is because it replenishes energy shield by 2% of armor when you block. I so happen to have 32,000 base armor. So do the math, 2% every time I block, and I'm almost max, or essentially max block, I get 2% of my armor back as energy shield. So basically, And then on top of this, this is actually crangled, so I get 59 flat energy shield gain when I block anyway. So basically, as long as I'm getting hit and I'm blocking attacks, I'm getting stupid amounts of energy shield back into the kitty, which is why this character can tank the formed without any real issues. It can actually tank every endgame boss at this stage, as far as I can see. The only thing that's limiting it is its damage, which we're going to work on. So as far as wand, now this wand was, I think I got for like 80 chaos, but you can pick them up for like 1 to 2 exalt. And now that sounds expensive, but you know, it's really not. Like, it's 1 exalt. Pretty much +1 to all spell gems and any damage over time that you can get. You don't need to have fire resist or any resist on this, but this just works in my advantage because my shield is negative fire resistance Krangle roll. So it's just better and more damage to me, and then just flat spell damage. So really simple one, nothing too crazy there. Rings, I do have a curse enemies with frostbite on hit. I do actually use focus. And I've crafted shock nearby enemies for 4 seconds when you focus. This just increases the damage of Vortex. There is rarity on this. This is not the best ring for this build, but it's not bad either. It's got some decent rolls on it. It could have more energy shield and resistances, but I don't have that yet, and it's all good. On top of that, for the other ring, we've got just flat damage, flat energy shield, and tackling resistances where I can. So that's all that there is to that. Now, the most important part of this build, aside from the Aegis Aurora, is actually the skin of the Lord's Simple Robe. I think you get this by trading in breach rings, so many breach rings, so it can be farmed. But the biggest thing here is you can't modify the socket colors, so you need to have 1 red, 2 blue, and 3 blue and 2 green specifically. The other thing to pay attention to is the specific notable node that comes with it. So mine has Mind Over Matter. I'll eventually have to switch this out. I would like to get Unwavering, so I can't be stunned, but I haven't yet got that. I don't have evasion ratings, so I don't have to worry about not blocking attacks. It's not bothering me right now, but it is something that I would like to trade out and switch up, but for right now, this is fine. You can pick these up for about 30 to 80 chaos right now on the market. They are dirt cheap. Actually, up to 17 chaos. They're really cheap. Just make sure you don't get something that has a notable that will F up your build. That's the most important part of the build, honestly, and the reason why it's important is it gives you +2 to level of socketed gems. Now, if you notice, I've got +1 wand, +2 to level socketed gems, and I am using an Empower support. Now, mine's not level 4, it's only level 3, but that gets a +2 from the Skin of the Lords, which makes it +4 to any supporting gems on there. So what that means is my Vortex goes from level 21, which is a 7 chaos gem, by the way, all the way up to level 28, which is where my damage comes from. Now, the goal is to try and get this to level 30. You can get it to level 30, just the Vortex scaling is insane, and GGG buffed the shit out of Vortex, and this comes back to my Starter League build curation, which basically said that Vortex was going to be fucking powerful this league, and I was right. You don't need Elemental Equilibrium for Vortex to be powerful this league. Elemental Equilibrium, unnecessary, you don't need it. It's powerful without it. Though if you could get a Skin of the Lords with it, it'd just give you more power. If you use Wave of Conviction, for example. That's pretty much it for the chest. And the other big thing is with Skin of the Lords, 100% increased global defenses. So your energy shield is a defense stat. It's not like HP and it's not like other stats. So that means that it will scale by that 100%, which is why I get to an ES pool of 7100, which is quite large. Boots, literally energy shield recharge rate is what I was going for on these. Flat energy shield, any resistances. I don't have a movement speed roll. I will eventually get better boots than these to do that, but for right now, these get 200 ES, so they're pretty good. They're not necessarily cheap either, but they're a couple of hundred chaos, but this is a Delve character, so that's pretty easy to generate. Belt, just flat ES and resistances. Again, not the greatest belt. I actually just crafted this one that I had spare on my cache. Now, you'll notice I am actually using that crazy-ass regenerate 150 energy shield per second while a rare or unique enemy is nearby. It's actually a relevant role in this, and you can use it on this build, and it gives you a lot more survivability, which I found was a lot more fun to play, and means you can face tank shit a lot easier, and survive delve really easily as well. Now, gloves, again, not the best gloves. You want a damage over time modifier on these gloves, but high level cold resist, high level lightning resist, sort of okay maximum energy shield, but I'd rather have ones with like 250, but we're sort of edging up in a larger exalt range there, and definitely a better roll than 25% increased damage during any flash, but this does affect your overall damage profile, so it still scales with your Vortex, and that's good enough for where it's at right now, since we're over a mil DPS. Now, gem setups, helmet, literally cast when damage taken with Molten Shell and Frostbolt. You can put anything you want in there, really, doesn't really matter. Eventually, I'm going to switch that around. I am using a Stone Golem just to prop myself up just a little bit. In my wand, Arcanist brand, Frostbomb, and Elemental Weakness. So we do Frostbite on hit with my ring and Elemental Weakness with my Arcanist brand. The reason why we can do this is because we have this Malediction node, which means I can have an additional curse on the Occultist, so I can multi-curse enemies without any penalty to losing that ability in having multiple curses proc, so it applies both curses. From there, in the chest, we're running Vortex, Empower, Hypothermia, Elemental Focus, Swift Affliction, and Control Destruction. Where possible, get Awakened Gems. One of the problems with this build is trying to get the dexterity that you need, and that's what we'll talk about as far as the gem or the jewel setups when we go into the tree setups. Now, gloves, I've just got Discipline, Determination, Clarity, and Malevolence. And then also Shield, Defiance Banner, Arcane Surge, and Frostblink. Now, I haven't got any Enlightened Gems yet because they're really expensive and I'm funding too many damn builds. And I keep running out of currency. But, you know, we're regenerating it as quickly as we generate it. But I will be getting Enlightened Gems, running my auras in there, and that'll be how I'll be able to squeeze a Hatred Gem in, which will give me another 300,000-400,000 dot. So watch this space. That'll be in the next few videos on this build, most likely when I put a build guide out for this, because I've done this very different way. In my boots, I'm just running a 4-link Cold Snap setup, so Control Destruction, Bone Chill, and Efficacy with Cold Snap. Cold Snap synergizes Cold Snap as well as Frost Bomb, both synergize with your Vortex, and that scales up your damage. The other thing Cold Snap does is it gives you Frenzy Charges, which makes you faster, so you don't need to worry so much about having speed rolls on your boots, as well as your flask auto popping, so there's no issues there. That's pretty much it for the gearing. It's relatively rudimentary, a little bit different with the Aegis Aurora. Honestly, I reckon you could do like a really good lightning ball build, or ball lightning build with the Aegis Aurora and be extremely tanky, but that'll be something I'll look at doing next league. So, talking about tree pathing. So, I took a few trees and sort of worked with this, but I've done it a bit differently and in my own flavor. So pretty much you just come up, take this practical application node. Because I don't have stun resist, you don't want to get sort of stun locked while you're casting. This just gives you all the sweet stuff like elemental resistances, dex, and strength, which is really hard to come by on this build, and everything else in between. So you come up to Deep Wisdom, we'll grab Arcane Focus. We come up here. You won't get this Wicked Ward until later down the track, probably until like level 85, so don't worry about that straight away. I worked my way through and picked up my nodes down here, so my Arcane Sanctuary and my Influence. Now you will need to take Reservation Mastery here, and I do have the Caster Mastery for 1% increased spell damage here. Do not take Chaos Inoculation when you're leveling up, not until you get to like 2700 ES or something like that, or 2500 ES, and then start testing Chaos Knockout. So leave this until last, don't do this until like level 70, 75. So you'll come back over, you'll pick up the Breath of the Rime, Heart of Ice. This will just scale up your Cold Dot, and then you get your Cold Mastery. So Curse on enemies in your chilling areas have 15% increased effect. So that just means that your 2 curses when enemies are in your cold snap areas are going to take more damage, and that's also why we use Frostblink. So Frostblink leaves that same sort of area, and then, pardon me, that will increase your damage. So in my build, I take Essence Surge, and I want the energy shield regen rate to be increased, or recharge rate to be increased, so I do take that. No other nodes are required here. Then you'll come across and you'll pick up Prodigal Perfection. This just scales with your mana, so you get increased spell damage. You'll take Mystic Bulwark, because this is a max block character, and we need to get a spell block up. And then we take Meta Mastery, and I do run Clarity on this, but in the full end game you won't need Clarity, but it's just a good to have at this stage, because I do have the Mind Over Matter roll on my Skin of the Lords, so I have to get around that somehow. Otherwise I'll be consistently out of mana. As it stands, I don't have a mana problem. I have like 130 mana regen, I think it is 137, which I have at 190 mana, so that's a fair bit of regen. And then we'll come up, we'll pick up this Unnatural Calm node. The other thing we'll get is Energy Shield Mastery, and Discipline has 25% increased mana reservation efficiency. Then we'll get Acromony. Oh my god, why are they gonna make things have these names? That'll just increase our damage over time for our cold dot. We will need this agility node, and you may need to spec into might here, because getting strength and int is really difficult on this build. Then we'll come down, we'll pick up insightfulness. We'll also get this 3% maximum mana is gained as energy shield node. And I went down to essence infusion as well, because I am playing the shield recharge rate and shield recharge, faster recharge statistics on this build to basically make it immortal. The whole goal here is to try and make this, or give this the ability to be able to tank Cyrus beams, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get this to do on a pretty good budget. Then we'll come up and pick up Arcane Guarding. You'll want all these block nodes, because when we take our Glancing Blows, this will double all these nodes, so you'll hit max block much sooner, or close to max block. Then you'll come up, pick up Zealot's Oath, because we want health regen to affect our ES, and that's going to mean that will mean that your Golem health regen will now affect your ES pool, so that's good. Then we'll come all the way down here. We don't need any of these. We don't scale crit. You will need to take the Sovereignty node in here, and you will need to take the Reservation Mastery. Don't take Aura Effect. It's a waste of time. You're going to scale this throughout the build anyway. Then you'll come down, you'll pick up your armor and energy shield, and this is actually when the shit starts to get really interesting. We get Faith and Steel. Now, I actually took increases and reductions to armor also apply to energy shield recharge rate at 20% the value, which is the recharge rate of this figure here. So, because we stack so much armor, and we've got increases to that, 20% of that actually increases the recharge rate, which makes us more sustainable. Now, whether or not this is effective or not entirely sure yet. I'm still playing with this, but it seems really cool and it seems to be working, so I'm going to stick with. Then come down, you're going to grab Sanctum of Thought. This is going to give you reduced extra damage from critical strikes. And then you're also going to take Defend with 120% armor when you're not on low energy shields. So you want to maintain a high level of energy shield, which you should have no problems doing. And then, you know, you'll get 120% armor, which is going to be really damn strong. Then we're going to have Divine Shield, which is actually a new node this league, which means you cannot recover energy shield above your armor. Well, that's not a problem, because we have 32,000 and a half armor, so recharging energy shields, no issues there. But that means there's no downside to this node, and we actually get 3% of physical damage prevented from hits recently is regenerated as energy shield per second. Now we take glancing blow damage of 65% damage from blocked hits with max block, which means 3% of that physical damage is actually regenerated as energy shield per second. So our regen rate just goes through the roof, or it goes up, you know, to quite a significant amount. The more we get hit, the stronger we get. And you would have seen at the start of the video, this can actually take down the Syndicate boss, Deathless, and face tank everything. This is a really damn strong character, like, because of these synergizations, these synergies between armor and energy shield, it makes it unbelievably strong. So then we come down and we pick up Glancing Blows. We want to take Sanctuary. This just gives us more block chance, so we can max that out, and more elemental resist when we have a shield. And then we'll take Sanctity, which is just a really nice to have node. Now, I don't have it in here yet, but I will be taking another dual socket because the dual sockets that you want to run in this build are actually ones that increase your base stats. So the next one will be an increase to dexterity, damage over time in particular, and increase in maximum energy shield. Now, I might get faster energy shield regeneration. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't got my second one yet, so I'll figure that out probably later tonight as I play. But that's what you want to start doing now since we've sort of decked out everything else and it's all working. So as you can see, like, the tree is really consistent. Now, for the Endless Delve that's coming up on the 3rd, I'd actually probably recommend something similar to this tree because there's no cluster jewels required. You could play this from League Start and have no real problems. Really, the only things that are going to hold you back are your, fundamentally, your Skin of the Lords and your Aegis Aurora, but quite frankly, you know, it'll slow you down, but you can compensate until you get these items. And these are relatively, you know, cheap items to get, probably in the second week of League or whatnot. But you're still going to be doing crazy good damage, and you're still going to be able to take down Cyrus map and go and probably get to 250 Delve, no problems. Right now, this is breezing through Delve without any problems, as you've probably seen the footage that I put at the start of this video. Now, outside of that, the Pantheon, I've taken Soul of Solaris because I want to be able to fight solo bosses. But you could go also Soul of Lunaris because you're going to be facing a lot of physical damage enemies around you. Or you could take Arakali because the only thing that can really hurt this build is Corrupted Blood or Poison. That's the only two things that can hurt this build that I'm yet to fold into it. The other side of it is Soul of Tukahama. So you get damage resist as you're standing still, and then 2% of life regeneration is going to translate to ES regeneration while stationary. And when you're sitting on bosses, you're pretty much just going to hold down Q and W and just continually cast this, so you're not actually going to be moving. Now, the other thing to note is also map your Vortex button to your movement key. So that means you can just sort of walk through maps and burn through maps really quickly. This is really a walking simulator build. And when you go to a boss, you're pretty much just going to stand still and hit and just hold down 2 buttons and then just sort of walk away. And hit your R now and again, so you get your little focus on. That's pretty much it. Anyway, that's pretty much the build as it is right now. I'm going to keep beefing this up. You'll see this on stream. This is my 2.0 Delve build. I got to Delve 500 with my Juggernaut, but the problem with the Jug is just it's too dangerous and choppy when you can't do enough damage. This does significantly more damage than that build as it stands right now, so I should be able to take down the Crystal King and sustain the Crystal King fight pretty easily with this build, or a lot more easily than I have in the past. Anyway, if you've got any questions or suggestions, put it down in the comments. I'll put a POB up as well. I put a POB into the previous video where I took down the Formed, which was really bloody easy. Honestly, it does the Maven content like it's nothing. I'm yet to do Cyrus A8 with this, but I'm pretty confident that it'll be able to do Cyrus A8 and pretty much anything else in the game. It'll be interesting to see if it can do the Feared, actually. I am going to give that a crack. But yeah, anyway, until next time, like and sub, and yeah, have a good one, and bye.